G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. So what's booked in today? Another Mitsubishi Triton. What am I? The Mitsubishi guy? I don't know. Who cares? It's paying the bills. So what's wrong with this one? Well, it's got a hard starting issue. It's been to another workshop. They couldn't figure it out, so it's been brought into me. Let's see if we can figure it out together. I used this vehicle as a bit of a diagnostic quiz the other day, teaching my apprentices in class. What it got them to do was to come up with different diagnostic ideas on where to start with this diagnostic path. So let's head out to the vehicle now and do what's called driver seat diagnosis. What's that? Check it out. Driver's seat diagnosis is a process that is used to check systems before you even raise the bonnet. So connecting up your scan tool, for instance, and checking through live data and seeing if stuff makes sense, or seeing if something jumps out at you that will give you a good indicator on where to start your diagnostic path. So this vehicle has been outside my workshop for 2 days now. The ignition has not even been turned on as yet. It's almost mid-morning. I haven't had a chance to get out here earlier, but we'll look at this together and see what we can find. Number one on the apprentice's checklist was the battery. Now, why is that important? Surely if you check with a multimeter, that's okay, isn't it? Well, not necessarily. The important thing is that the PCM, or the powertrain control module, sees 12 volts rather than just 12 volts at the battery. There could be a voltage drop, there could be all sorts of issues with it. So let's hook up the scan tool, turn on the ignition and find out if we're getting 12 volts. The customer did say that eventually, to get the vehicle from the workshop where he had it tested previously, they had to jump start the thing. So there's a starting point already. But that could have just been because it was winding over for a long period of time and it drained the battery. So what we'll do is we'll check what the scan tool says, and then I'll probably put the battery on charge straight away. It's also important to do a full system search so you don't miss any clues along the way. Just so you know, this is a 4D56 engine in this Mitsubishi Triton 2011 model. Just while we're waiting for the scan tool to finish going through its systems search, I'll just read some of the text that was sent to me the other day by the customer. Now keep in mind, the customer can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Best friend, they can give you lots and lots of information that may be relevant. Worst thing about them is that they can tell you what they think is wrong with it, and that can put you on an incorrect diagnostic path. You need to make decisions based on the data, not on someone's opinion. It's a good idea to keep it in mind. They may have a good suggestion, but don't lock it in, Eddie. It's not going to help you. So one of the things that they did say was that one of the codes that came up was a corrupt transmission of keyless remote locking affecting the immobilizer, and they said it would have to be taken to a different workshop, you know, specialised scan tools, all that sort of stuff. And he thought, well, that's a bit weird because both my wife and myself's keys, this is what the customer said, are working, and it's just progressively got worse over the weeks. It hasn't been a thing that's happened like that. It's just got worse and worse and worse. The important thing that is said here, but it always started after several attempts. Isn't that interesting? Keep that in mind. That's an important diagnostic fact. Let's see what the scan tool's up to. Hopefully you guys can see that all right. We've got quite a few faults listed there, as you can see. Let's just start with the diesel one. That's probably going to be relevant. It has ones in the keyless area, immobilizer, transmission, and electronic time and alarm control system. So there's a fair few there, but let's just go through them one by one and see what we've got. Now, it's definitely got a present code over here, incorrect Immobilizer Key. Now, he's stated that he's used several keys. It's made no difference. There's no freeze frame data attached to that down the bottom here. So we'll just leave those for the moment. We'll keep that in mind. Don't worry about these timed out ones. A lot of the time it's with regard to something just hasn't happened in a given amount of time. Oh, this is interesting. Already learned by another vehicle. That's a bit of a concern. What's the next one? That'll be a timed out one, I'm sure. For instance, one other Triton that I work on is a manual transmission, and this fault code comes up all the time with regard to an automatic transmission. Duh, doesn't have an auto trans, that's why. Yes, this is my main concern. It's not these timed out ones. I'm not overly concerned about those. Already learned by another vehicle. That's what is a bit of a worry. Anyway, let's go back to our diagnostic path. Let's just look for battery. Let's go to live data, see what our battery voltage is running at the moment. Well, have a look at this, eh? 12 volts, man. Once you start cranking, that thing will be dead like a pork chop. We'll get fuel pressure as well as fuel target. Just see how that happens. Okay, selected, and we'll graph those fellas there and just see what it does. Now, like I said, it's virtually not worth even attempting to start it with the battery voltage at 12. So I'm going to cheat a little bit for driver's seat diagnostics. I'm actually going to hook up a jumper pack just to see what happens. The jumper pack's now connected, but I haven't seen a jump in my 12 volts here. I've included the glow plug just as a matter of course. Let's have a look on the dash, for instance, and see what happens when I turn the ignition off and on. See the glow plug there? And of course, if we have a look on our scan tool, we can see that it responded in kind. Not concerned about that, but have a look at the voltage. Dodgy as. Let's just crank it and see what it does. 9 volts, 10 volts, it's struggling. What's the go there? Fuel pressure, not coming up. Okay, no fuel pressure coming up. What's the go there? Where's the target fuel pressure? 44 megapascals, and we've got nothing. No fuel pressure whatsoever. Interesting. I'm just trying another key that came with the car and see if that makes any difference whatsoever. Still no fuel pressure. Okay, interesting. A lot of the time injectors won't even open unless they see over 12 volts. So yeah, that could be an issue, but we're certainly not getting fuel pressure. It's important at this point in time we take a step back and analyse the data that we have in front of us. It's no use going on a wild goose chase. We need to focus on the facts. Just the facts, folks, just the facts. So unlike other technicians that can quote off the top of their head all the fault codes under the sun, I'm not like that. Small brain syndrome, I'm afraid. So what I need to do is research some of these fault codes and find out what do they mean. That'll give me some sort of direction to start my diagnostic path. I've taken a photo of all the diagnostic fault codes that I've found during the scan, and now I'll analyse each one of those and see how they relate to the fault. This is sort of the first page I've come across. Just doing a quick search. As you can see, it's for a Mitsubishi Pajero. B1766 is the code. It's stating that the transponder is registered for another vehicle. Now this is interesting because it says some of the possible causes, as you note there. Could be the ignition key is used in another vehicle's key, or in other words you've got the wrong key in there, or it could be a malfunction of the Immobilizer ECU. Now the other company stated that it was a Immobilizer fault, and of course I'm looking at the fuel system and seeing no fuel pressure. Now generally speaking, if you want to immobilise something, if it was a petrol vehicle, you could stop the fuel pump, you could stop spark, but on a diesel of course, easiest way to stop the vehicle from starting could be to cut fuel, I guess. Not really familiar with this, but I'll keep digging. That's all part of the diagnostic process, isn't it? We don't want to guess, we want to follow the facts. Okay, another thing it states here, which is what I'll do, is it reset? So is it a hard code or a soft code? So if I clear that code, it does say present, so therefore I'd be surprised if I can get rid of that code, but we will certainly give that a shot. Just about to chuck the battery on charge, and I thought, well, let's do some testing first, see the condition of it. If we were to go just on the little inbuilt hydrometer, which is this little fella here, you can see that it's green on the outside, but it's got a red dot in the middle, hasn't it? And if we have a look at the indicators, it says here for a battery OK, we've got a green circle with a red dot in the middle. So it should be okay, shouldn't it? Yeah, let's have a look. Now, I told this guy that this battery needed to be replaced some time ago, and he went ahead and did it, apparently. So the story goes, But I've just checked it with my battery tester, and what's it say? Replace, state of health 43%. So look, this may be the issue entirely. You get some really weird things happening if you don't have a fully charged battery. Not saying that that's the reason for it, but what I am saying is we need to get this battery sorted ASAP. I'm going to stick it on charge, see if that helps for now, and do another test and see what the results are. I'll do some more research while I'm charging this battery, and we'll come back shortly and check it out. I've just tried to clear all those stored codes, but they are present. They're hard codes, they will not go away. One fault code that came up that wasn't there before is a B1702, which is a reception error of encrypted code. So this is actually still to do with our Immobilizer system. So I've managed to download a genuine workshop manual, and I'm going to go through the process of just testing that transponder into the slip ring area as well, and to see if that particular Immobilizer ECU is picking up that transmission, or if the slip ring is actually broken or something along those lines. So I'm going to let the battery charge for a bit longer. Believe it or not, this battery is only a couple of months old, so I'm going to have to speak to the customer and see if he wants it replaced or whatever the go is. But that's going to have to be on his shoulders. I didn't organise it, he got it himself. When a battery is discharged, they do all sorts of mind-blowing things, so it's really important to make sure that your battery is in good condition. I'm going to have some lunch, and then I'll come back afterwards and check that key reminder switch, they call it. What that fella does is detect when the key is being pushed in and out, and therefore it can pick up the transponder code that is then sent off to the Immobilizer ECU. So I've got a little bit of testing to do, but I wanted to have my lunch first to give that battery some time to charge. So, time for lunch. Just to keep you guys up to date with what I've been up to, I've sort of pulled down all the trim at the bottom. I've checked all my fuses, both in here in the cabin and in the engine bay. Just start with the basics, of course. I've charged my battery, that's come up okay. So like I said, I've pulled off all the plastics, chucked them over to one side, and I've been studying a manual that I got offline. It has a key reminder switch. That's our key reminder switch connector there. I've pulled it off and checked for continuity, that's okay. The next thing I need to do is have a look at the ETAX ECU, which is the Immobilizer. And look, I've been looking high and low for the damn thing, couldn't find it. And then I found a video online that they keep them attached to the back of the fuse box. See the two connectors up here and here? Shoved in the back there. That's it, attached to the back of the fuse box. Yay! Anyway, I'll pop that off and then have a look and see what I can find in the back there. Make sure that I've got continuity between my Immobilizer, that key switch in particular, to my ETAX, and see how we go from there. I've just dropped down the fuse box, as I mentioned. You can see the 1,000,001 connectors that were attached to it. I've taken photos before, make sure I get them back in the right spot. But this is our Immobilizer ECU on the back. I'll pull it off and have a look shortly on the bench, but that's what they bolted into. These two little connectors here go into it, and it's all assembled as one unit. Fingers crossed there's just a bad connection or something like that, but let's pull it apart and have a look. Just before I start throwing the parts cannon at it, which I detest, let's do some more testing. I've checked this key reminder switch, and that seems to be working okay. You put the key in, you check for continuity across it, you pull it out, and the continuity goes away. I've just checked at the key reminder switch. I've pulled the wiring off, as you can see there, back probed it, and I've checked both my earth wire that goes through this particular junction block, as well as going back to the ETAX at the moment on pin 53. That's where I've got it probed right at the moment. Happy with the results on both, so I need to pull this mega beast apart and have a look inside. I've done some research online with regard to what ETAX stands for. It refers to Electronic Time and Alarm Control System. The earlier ones were fairly basic. Later ones include CAN, which is Control Area Network, and Local Interconnect Network Protocols, which is LIN. These include the security system, immobilization, central locking, all sorts of other goodies, Also included in the e-tax is wipers, hazard lights, indicators, the list goes on and on. It's quite detailed, so this can be the cause of many a problem on our Mitsubishis. There's another page over here that I found interesting too. It talks about e-tax. This is a Mitsubishi, an official Mitsubishi site. It talks about the e-tax, what it supports. Automatic headlight shut-off, not overly interested in all this sort of stuff. Interior light, automatic light control, front wipers, rear wipers. Now this is the stuff that we're interested in. Security systems, so including the horn and flashing hazard lights, anti-theft system. Of course this one here, Immobilization, that's the one that we're interested in. The Immobilizer is a system that ensures that the engine will only start after the unique code transmitted from the key is matched to the code of the engine control system of the vehicle. If the dedicated key is not used, the engine will not start. This stops people from starting the engine with an unauthorised key and effectively reduces the number of thefts. That's why I've pulled out the e-tax. You might think to yourself, well, that's all to do with wipers and indicators and hazard lights, etc. Yes, but this beast handles a hell of a lot more, including a no-start situation as a result of the Immobilizer being put into effect. This is the e-tax ECU. I've done some quick checks on it for dry solder joints. I found a few along here, along one of the main connectors there that goes into the back of the fuse box. I've checked for corrosion, etc. in here. There was none. I've also checked for the pins here to make sure there's no corrosion or loose terminals. They're the main feed-in connectors. They appear to be okay. Other things that these fail in is the area of these relays. Now, I don't have a wiring diagram to double check everything correctly, but generally speaking, to check a relay you should have, you know, a couple of coils that you check, etc. I'm not getting sensible readings, and I'm not going to spend hours on it trying to figure it out. So I'm going to reassemble it, put it back in the car, see if that's made any difference. Otherwise, a little more testing, but this may be the fault itself, I believe. So I've got it all back together now, clipped into place, fuse box plus my e-tax on the back of that. I've made sure all my connectors go in properly. I did solder in those dry solder joints. Whether that's going to help or not, honestly, I don't know. All I can do is try, hey. So fingers crossed, battery's back on, and there it goes. Yeah, look, I'm going to do further testing inside the workshop. I'm not happy that I've sorted out the issue. I believe it has several issues. So I've just brought it into the workshop, re-scanned it. Can you notice what's missing? That B1766, I haven't cleared anything, but it's now missing. Now that was the one that said transponder registered for another vehicle, and that's now missing. Cruise down to these ones down here. Fingers crossed we've got no key related ones. Time out, time out, time out, time out. Okay, cool. I've just gone into body control or keyless entry. It has memorized 2 transponder keys, so there's no reason that it shouldn't work. It's not like it's forgotten them or anything like that. It was a bit of a glitch in the matrix there, I feel, with the e-tax. One thing I'm still concerned about is this battery voltage. See, it says there 11.7 up here, right there. I've checked at the battery physically and it says 12.5. So there is a discrepancy there, but look, 12.05 is not good. I didn't have this on charge too long, but I'm still going to, I'll keep it here overnight again and keep it on charge overnight. It's come up as a good battery now. Even I've tested it and it come up as a good battery, but it needs a really damn good long charge. Now I've had this battery on charge for 2 days now and it's only just fully charged. This battery was replaced, I haven't spoken to the customer, but just from memory I'd say, look, 2-3 months ago at the most. And look, it shouldn't take 2 days to charge a battery. Let's see if this makes any difference. I'd like to put on my electronic battery tester and just see what data it can provide us to help us toward our diagnostic path. So according to my little OR tool tester, it's saying it's a good battery. Its state of health is 93%. That sounds pretty impressive. State of charge, 98%. It's got 13.56 volts at the moment. and we have 765 amps available. Alright, so what have I got to lose? Let's hit the key and see what happens. Okay, let's try a few more times. Let's just try and stress it out a little bit. No check engine light, no nothing. It's all good. Just for giggles, I'm going to retest this battery straight after it's been started. What did we do? Half a dozen times, I suppose. Let's see what it's up to. Let's hit the enter button. Should be pre-set up. I should be checking to make sure that his cranking is okay, starting of his engine is okay, and of course our alternator check. Let's have a look at that. So there we go, we've got cranking is normal, went down to 10.4, which is okay, and it took 1,113 milliseconds. So that's okay. We'll go next to our alternator check, see how we go with that. It's saying our charging is normal, saying under load 14.14 volts, unloaded 14.08 volts. And it says that the diode ripple or the AC ripple is normal. Fortunately, the customer doesn't need this vehicle. It's one that he's going to put up for sale shortly, and so he just wants it up and running correctly. So I can keep it here for a couple of days if needed. That'd be good just to see if it drops away. One last test that I want to do just before I call it quits for now, keep in mind I'm going to let it sit for a couple of days, is checking for a parasitic drain. Now, there could be something turned on that I don't know about, slowly draining the battery. The battery might be in good condition, but it keeps going flat perhaps. That might be causing some of our issues. Remember I said whenever there's battery issues, you get some weird things happening. Weird and strange. So what I'll do for now is just do a quick parasitic drain test, and I'm going to do that using a current clamp. So in this case, I'm turning it at a 40 amps, and I have to select it. It's stuck in the AC range, so I need to go to DC, and I also need to hit the release button to get it to go back to 0. So I'll just chuck it around the earth cable. You can stick it around either the earth or the positive. The beauty about the earth is there's only a single cable going from the battery, whereas if you're going to check the positive side of things, you'd have to check all the cables. So I'll just put it around here and see what we read. Whoa, baby, check it out, 0.5 of an amp. That's like 500 milliamps. Dude, way too much. It's just got too much power, Captain. I can't give it any more. Alrighty, it's time to settle down. One thing you've got to do when you're looking for parasitic drain is make sure, for instance, that the doors are shut, that the CAN bus system has stopped communicating, all those sort of things. So I've got the driver's door open at the moment. Maybe that's the fault. Let's shut the driver's door. Ooh, 1 amp. So the reason is I had the ignition turned on. Hear that buzz? Can you hear that? That's the actual throttle body going through a test procedure. Give it a couple of seconds and that should cut out and our amperage should disappear. And we're waiting. We're waiting. There we go. Check that out. It's down to 0.3. Should it go further down? That's 300 milliamps. Still miles too much, isn't it? Is that our CAN bus system causing the problem? Now what that fella does is it's a network that's inside the car, similar to your internet I guess you could say, where there's computers chatting to one another, and after the ignition gets turned off, this fella likes to have a bit of a chatter with all the other modules. It's a bit of a gossip, and once it's finished chattering, then all the current draw should disappear. So how do we know when that has stopped? Let's head to the cabin. I've still got the DLC or the diagnostic link connector hanging down here. And of course that's a 16-pin connector. If we have a look at the back, that white one there is pin 16. That should have power at all times. So 16, 15, 14, etc. And then we go, what are we after? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 and 5, these two fellas here are earth. And what we want to connect is something as simple as an LED. Now mine's probably a little fancy schmancy. You know, all I've done is take some connectors that I've dug out of an old connector terminal, and I've just made it into a lead that I can see easily. So to see those communication lines happening, all you do is you grab yourself a little LED. This one here is a 1.6 volt LED, forward voltage, and I've gone in through my pin, pin 6 and pin 5. Pin 5 and pin 4 are your earth, and pin 6 is the low side of your CAN bus system. So yeah, and just by doing that I can see if my CAN bus system has gone to sleep, and therefore I can check for parasitic drain. Just to show you how the CAN bus system works, remember that this has a key identification switch that comes in, and notice when I put the key even in, it identifies that the key has been inserted into the lock, and it goes out again. We turn it to the on position and we have a look at it. Can you see that? I might just zoom in for you guys. Zoom, extreme close up. Can you see it flickering there? Maybe you can't. Anyway, it's flickering, believe it or not. And that means that the CAN bus system is actually working. If we turn the ignition off and pull it out, give it a little bit of time, and that in turn, that flickering or the communication will eventually stop, just like that. So that tells me that the CAN bus system has now gone to sleep. It's the important thing with parasitic drain. You can't just take it at face value. You have to wait patiently until you see that disappear to nothing. If it remains consistent after about an hour or so, I guess, some of these will stay communicating for up to about 2 hours. So that can be a real problem when you're trying to diagnose. So everything's switched off and finally counted down, as we can see, and it's ranging between, what's that, 20 milliamps, 10 milliamps, 30 milliamps, 40 milliamps, something along those lines. But hey, that's okay in my books. But parasitic draw, yeah, looks okay to me. So this beast has been sitting in the workshop for 2 days now. I haven't started it or anything like that. Just wanted the battery just to sit there and think about what it's been doing. If we have a look, it's got 12.86 volts, which is fantastic. Let's just do a test on it anyway and see what it comes up with. 720 cold cranking amps is what it is. Let's do a test on it even before we start the thing, see what it says. So this hasn't really changed from last time we checked it, which is good. We haven't seen any major drainage happening. I'll give it a try, see what happens. What's the worst that could happen, hey? My day could turn into a nightmare. That's what could happen. But, yeah, remain positive. So just about to take it for a quick road test. If I don't get blown away, man, is it windy here today. But anyway, we've done the work, we've accomplished what we need to, we've got the beast up and running. So what was the problem? So remember that E-tax, the thing that is controlling so many different things, including the immobilizer, that was playing up. It had some dry solder joints, and of course that battery was flat as a tack. There wasn't any go-go juice in it whatsoever. So I've charged it up. It appears to be good. I'm still concerned about a bit of a voltage drop at the E-tax, but I'll pass that information on to the customer, see if he wants to take it further or if he's happy to just sell it as is. I don't think it's going to be a major issue, but once he starts cranking for a long period of time, the battery voltage drops down, and then of course the immobilizer kicks in because we have low battery voltage. Anyway guys, I hope this video has been of use to you. I've certainly learned something as per normal. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give it a like and comment down below. Don't forget the notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. So until next time guys, this is MiracleMAX signing off. I'll catch you later.